coming up. What an excellent day for Napoleon Bonaparte. Alouette, Jean de Blumeret, Jean de Blumeret.
Dorez-vous.
And another French song.
Luckily, that one doesn't have any words, so that was
right,
easy.
Yeah. Those are the 3 songs that French people sing. That's it. And they don't have titles. It's just like, what is your favorite song, Maurice? I really like da, 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 da. Yes, Maurice and Napoleon. Yeah.
You want to start the show?
Yeah. before we lose all of our French listeners, all 3 of our French listeners, or trois of our French listeners. Well, howdy, folks, and welcome to minute 88 of the Exorcist Minute, a show where we endeavor to examine, extrapolate, and excavate the Exorcist minute by terrifying minute. My name is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I'm Keenan Diaz.
And we'll be your holy guides on this journey through what some have called the scariest movie of all time. Okay, so our minute begins with Chris saying, I thought you were supposed to be an expert.
And it ends with her saying, and I want you to tell me that you know for a fact that there's nothing wrong with my daughter except in her mind.
All right, well, that escalated quickly.
Oh, and it actually cuts off a monologue here.
Yeah, it does.
We'll pick that up later.
Yeah. But no, I joke about it escalating quickly, but no, I think Chris is doing all the right things here. But wait a minute. Keenan, so we got Chris, an atheist, saying this to Karis, a priest?
Mm-hmm.
Strange but true, folks. But yeah, let's get back to the top of this minute, where Chris is asking this priest about demonic possession. She says, "I thought you were supposed to be an I thought you were supposed to be an exorcist. I thought you were supposed to be an expert." Mm-hmm. We cut to an interesting shot here. I guess we call this an over-the-shoulder from Chris, but she's not even in the frame yet. She sort of steps into the over-the-shoulder position. Yeah, but at first it's just a close-up of Karis as he turns and he looks offended is the first word that came to my mind. Like almost like Chris is making light of his entire faith. Like, are you getting that too, Keenan? It's like, lady, I know I'm having a crisis of faith, but this is a little disrespectful to like the thing I may or may not believe in, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's like she just asked him to bust a ghost.
Right, exactly. And I love the lighting here. So, they're in this basement where in reality for the basement, the light would come directly from on top of them, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So this is what we call a high key. There's low key lighting and high key lighting. So the key light is many definitions, but like where the brightest spot on the subject is normally.
Right.
So here it's high, it's way above them. So we get this kind of, like interrogation room, Frankenstein's monster, where the brows look really heavy. And basically, like his eyes will look really dark, but his face is mostly lit really plainly, like really evenly. Yeah. So it was like this interrogation room that's very intense. And then a low key light would be like when you put a flashlight under your chin for a like a ghost story.
Right.
Because you put the key. Yeah. So here, it's really interesting because we haven't quite seen him like this. We'll see him like this a lot later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, where his face is just entirely illuminated from the top and he looks incredibly fierce, right?
Yes.
So it is like they are interrogating each other.
This is so different. Now that you mention it, yeah, this is so different from like the very first time we see him when he's like, listening to Chris and Burke argue, right? And he's just in the crowd and he's laughing along with everybody, right? This is, it's almost like it's not the same person.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the power of lighting, baby.
Wow.
They'll say things like the camera adds 10 pounds. My mentor, Francisco Menendez, likes to say it's bad lighting that adds the 10 pounds. It's not actually the camera. But yeah, you can do incredible things by modeling, in the sense of like, life drawing, sketching, depending on where the light is.
Oh, man. Let there be good lighting. Yeah. So back to this scene, Karis, his response to this is, there are no experts, which is like chilling, right? And I got to say, this is really effective in a couple of ways. One, it establishes, it reinforces what he already said in the park, that this is not a common thing even for Catholics, right? Most of whom don't even believe in the devil anymore. And in that way, it also just upped the scariness for us, because what he's saying is that there's no one we can turn to who's going to know exactly what to do.
Right.
We've been searching in the dark, hoping and praying to find someone who can say, it's okay, I'll take it from here. And then we find Karis, and he does say, it's okay, I'll take it from here, but he's just as in the dark, right? He's groping just as blindly, right?
Yeah. And again, like we talked about in the previous minute of, yes, they're on the same team, but that doesn't mean that there's not going to be any gulf between them or problems between them or conflict between them or doubt between them, right?
Yes.
But yeah, he turns to her, and it really is this, like, I guess part of the subtext potentially what Jason Miller is doing is like, I told you already there are no experts, right? But it's also like, yeah, I'm all you got. This is it.
Yeah,
this is the best we're gonna do.
Yeah, and also could be like just I'm also thinking of like, it's like, hey, lady, I'm trying to get right with God, and you're asking me to essentially like put my job on the line. Like this is, if I go to the church with this, like I don't know what they're gonna think.
Right.
Yeah. And so he says,
I don't know what I think. Right.
Exactly. I don't know what I think. I was like,
right?
this is cuckoo banana pants. I don't know if a doctor has told you that yet, but yeah. No, a doctor brought me to you. Like, yeah.
Well, he was a doctor and a foundation, so I don't know if I should
be. He was a foundation. He was a doctor. Yeah. But he says, you probably know as much about possession as most priests. That's got to make your stomach drop right there.
Right.
Right? Like, we were teased with the possibility that this knight in shining armor was going to come and take command and take care of all of this for us. And instead, we get this sort of like knight in training.
Right.
Like I don't want to discount Karis here, but like, remember, like when we first met him, like I said, the thing that I love about him is that he is a silent but ever-present force of good, right? He has that quality, like the foster father in The Book Thief, right? The quality of not leaving. And no matter how hard it gets, he will not abandon you, and that's his superpower. And it ends up being, well, we'll just have to wait and see for that. But like the point I'm trying to make here with them teasing us and revealing that Karis is not the knight in shining armor is that now we think one isn't going to come.
Right.
And that is a really great setup because, hey, like we're more than halfway through the movie, folks. Like we've been following Karis. We were banking on Karis, and here we see that he's just like us. He's lost. Well, who else is there? Like, we've seen everybody. Like, let's go all the way back. We got Dr. Klein. We got Dr. Tanny. We got the psychiatrist. We got Kinderman. He's not going to help us. We were really looking to Karis as our last hope, and it's not him either. I mean, Keenan, I don't think I've forgotten anybody, right? Like, I think I remember the movie that we've been covering over half a year. There's no one else, right?
No. Like, in our version, TVWWIOH, which is the version we're writing in our head, there could be the Horseman, who we built up as like being much more important in our heads than Blatty or Friedkin thought.
Right, yeah.
Because he doesn't exist.
Right, because he doesn't exist.
Right, but he's not going to ride in on himself as a knight in shining armor.
Yeah. So folks, you hear that? Like, I mean, and we're the experts here. No, we're not. We're never experts. We're not
experts.
But no, I think I see. I think people know what I'm getting at, right? Like,
yeah.
we can't remember anybody else. So nobody is coming, right? And I love that. Like, I see what you did there, Blatty. I see what you did there, Friedkin. Right?
I think it's interesting, this idea, like he's a knight in training, So I teach at UNLV Film, a film department at a college. You have, you took a lot of film classes. You took a lot of theater classes. You were English major. So like for creative writing especially, right? That was your focus.
Storytelling stuff.
Storytelling, yeah. So like, in the academic world, there is this big back and forth about like, well, who's the best person to teach the students, right? Like a really good academic who knows how to teach, or like a really good person who's really been there in the industry, right? So like even in the like the novel writing or playwriting industry, right? So like, sometimes the students are like, well, I really like this person because they really have done it before, but like, Steven Spielberg would be a terrible teacher.
Oh yeah.
because he's just always protective of his own brand, and he tells you stories about wandering away from the Universal tour when he was a kid and setting up an office there like he was Encyclopedia Brown, which is all made up.
Yeah. I would not like to have Friedkin as a teacher.
You would, exactly. No. That's an even better example, right? You would not want Friedkin to be teaching you.
No.
Or the Coen brothers, who was just like, unless you're close with them, they don't really communicate very well, right, with other people, right? But yeah, is an academic like Karras, the person, he could teach you theoretically about exorcism, but he's never done one before, right?
Right.
So he's the expert on the occult, and he's written papers about it in the Washington D.C. area, but he doesn't know when we actually say, like, can you do it now? He's not the guy.
Yeah, no. And it's weird because it's like they came to him because he's the closest thing that they have.
Right.
Because he did a paper on witchcraft, which is like several degrees removed from demonic possession, right?
So you imagine that his paper on witchcraft was closer to like what you have been about modern witchcraft, the realities of witchcraft, not about like, it's not a how-to manual how to be a witch.
Well, okay, let's not go that far, because I still think like Blatty or Friedkin or like the creative force behind this is coloring actual witches in a certain kind of like Christian propaganda-y way.
Right, you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So I'm imagining, boy, it would be great if we could read the paper by Karras, this fictional person.
Right. Yeah. Today they would have written it and put it on a website or something for us.
Yeah. I'm imagining that the type of paper Karras wrote about witchcraft was like, these people are, psychotic and they do these horrible, things and baby's blood and blah, blah, blah. And he's saying it's like, it's a psychosis and this and that, right?
Uh-huh.
Which is not true of real witchcraft. It's a legitimate religion. But what I'm saying is, like, even that is several degrees removed from, okay, what do you do when you got a demon?
Right.
Right. So, but like he is like in all of Georgetown University's, collection of priests, he is the closest to the darkness.
Right.
That they can find, right? Because he wrote this thing about like Satanism and stuff.
Right. And he book learned about it. He didn't go and embed himself with witches somewhere.
Precisely. Yeah, he didn't join a coven and
right.
an undercover coven. Yeah. There we go. There's an 80s action movie. Okay.
Undercover coven. Starring Nick Nolte.
Yeah. I'm gonna or another famous Nick. I'm gonna do it. I'm going to join this witches coven.
Oh, look what we have unleashed upon you, listeners.
Oh, God.
You heard us figuring out the Nick Cage impression for Lester on the air, and now you're going to get a lot of it.
Yep. Yeah. We got Gilbert Gottfried. We got Nick Cage. We got Jimmy Stewart. It's a regular legion of wait, are they all dead? No, Nick Cage isn't dead.
Nick Cage isn't dead, no.
No. But he's in here with us.
So buckle up, listeners.
Yes.
There's no going back from this.
No. Anyway. All right. But yeah, wait, that was everything you wanted to say, right?
Yes, that he is an academic, which, maybe I'm putting that on myself because I'm an academic, but he is an academic. He has not been there before.
Precisely. So then he says, look, your daughter doesn't say she's possessed by a demon. She says she's the devil himself. And folks, that next line ramps it up even more. It's like, all right, okay, you brought us this far. Exorcisms are a thing. Possession by demons is a thing. People getting possessed by random no-name spirits and demons, sure. Now you're telling me, I just learned about possession. I just accepted that people can get possessed by demons. Now you're telling me we got the possession of all possessions going on upstairs, like the devil, the guy, right? And this does two things. Diegetically, if I'm still using that term correctly, within the story, it gives Karras a perfect reason to be incredulous. Right? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, you're saying the guy who fixed your phone at the Genius Store was Steve Jobs. Right? Oh, so you didn't get those Air Jordans at the store. You got them from Michael Jordan. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Right? You went to Giovanni's Pizzeria, and Giovanni himself...
Giovanni himself was there.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Grimace handed you your Grimace shake. I see.
Yeah, and he said, "Drink of this, for it is my blood."
Oh, God. Spilled for you in the everlasting covenant of McDonald's. Remember, children, love your neighbor as I'm loving it. Y'all deserve a break today.
Right.
And everybody said McDonald's. Yeah. But no, okay. So, but that's what I'm saying is like, that's what it does within the fabric of the film. It's like, okay, not just any demon, but like the big demon, right? Like the devil, right? That's a little bit, even if I did believe in possession, that never happens, right?
Right.
That the devil is the one who's possessing your daughter, right? I imagine he's got better things to do, like
in
the devil.
This ultimate clash of good and evil.
Right.
Right.
Famine and wars and stuff like that. But I'm going to go to Georgetown, right? Because there's this girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In this rental home.
And her dad didn't call her on her birthday.
Oh, this is... And all the devil's little like minions are like, "Sir, are you sure that this is like where we should be spending all of our time?" It's like, no, this is part of my master plan.
Right. We are very close to the White House or the Pentagon. We could cause World War III if you wanted to.
Hey, I work in mysterious ways. Just like that other guy. Come on. Yeah. But no, like that's what I'm saying is like within the story, that's like very, very hard to swallow, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But then for us on the outside watching the film, we're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. That is a non-diegetic oh, fuck.
Yeah, because we have seen all the other stuff. We know that this is real. Mm-hmm. It hits harder. Like, and I don't know why it hits me harder here, right? This is the second time we've heard it, right? Captain Howdy already said that he's the devil upstairs. But for some reason, when Karras says it down here, like, look, he doesn't, not just a demon, but the devil, we're like, oh my God. Like, like this is like a big deal. And he doesn't realize that it's real, right?
Right. He won't, well, again, we've said this several times, so I don't want to be a broken record, but it's not that he doesn't realize, he will not accept that this is serious.
Precisely. And yeah, folks, okay, I'm saying the devil and all of this stuff. So I guess this is it. Folks, we have made it. Remember, I sort of teased that I had something to say about one of these characters, a very important character, and I was worried because what I'm about to say might ruffle some feathers, especially if you are a fan of this movie, a fan of this book, and you know the lore about this character. But I gotta say my piece. I feel compelled to put this out here, and I am aware this might discredit me forever and ever. Amen. Keenan, who the fuck is this?
You mean who is possessing Reagan?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to get us canceled?
I
in
just
every
might.
Sense of the word.
In
are
every
you going
sense
to?
of the word. Okay, so folks, or wait, did you want to try to answer that or no?
Who is in it?
Yeah.
No, Lester, I'm going to let you answer
right.
that. But so there is the general question of whether this is Pazuzu or the devil.
Right.
And those are mutually exclusive answers, I would say. And I think that the Exorcist community agrees with me on that point so far. Uh-huh. So I will let you take over from there.
Okay, all right.
Because I like our fans.
Yeah. I love them too. I just gotta say what I gotta say. Okay, so
all right.
Folks, you might have noticed that whenever we talk about this demon, I try to refer to him as Captain Howdy, because that's what he calls himself. Do I think that this is his real name? Of course not, right? I know the demon lies, but it's the only name that I can use with absolute certainty because it's the name that he has given himself until this part of the movie and also the book where he declares that he is the devil. Now, this, I think, is the first litmus test that separates like casual horror fans from Exorcist fans. And I think Exorcist fans know that this is not the devil, right? Mm-hmm. They might have heard about it somewhere. They might have read the book where the demon does actually admit later on that he is not the devil, but simply a devil.
Right. It's not a room, it's the room.
Exactly.
As Tommy Wiseau says.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. So he is a devil. He admits that he's not the devil. Fine. Good. Great. And I count myself in this group. I will push my glasses up and I will say, actually, the name of the demon is Frankenstein. No. No. But like I will mention, it's like, hey, in the book, it's not the devil, right? In the book, because of that scene that exists where he says that. Now, Keenan, we're not even at the big part of my argument yet, but I also feel compelled to say this. During the course of us covering this movie, you brought to light something I never even thought about, this Laurie Strode argument.
Okay.
Where you don't like that people say that Laurie Strode and Michael Myers are siblings because as it was originally conceived, that was not the case. And they added that bit of lore in the second movie.
Right.
But if you just appreciate the first movie as a standalone work,
yes,
they are not siblings, right?
Yes, and it is, I prefer that because it is Michael Myers coming at Laurie just because that in that instance I think is scarier than that he has some revenge thing he's trying to work out on her. And in the sequels where that is the case where they have this relationship, that's fine. But yes, I don't particularly love that. And then as I've said, I don't know what to do with that in Star Wars, the first Star Wars, where I have not been able to separate that. I can only retcon it that is Darth Vader is Luke and Leia's father, and that they kiss.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
But no, I'm glad you brought up Star Wars. That was the other movie I was going to talk about, right? Like episode 4, people say they love that one because it is standalone, right? It's a good movie all by itself. It has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end, right? It introduces the Empire in such a way, and we got our hero. And in that one, we never get the I am your father. So essentially, like, again, post-apocalypse, every other movie has been disintegrated. There's no records. All we have is episode 4. Then they aren't father and son. Yeah. Right?
And what is this last shot of Leia looking at Luke about?
Yeah.
Where she is like, she clearly is attracted to him.
Right. I'm going to marry that man who I don't know is my brother.
Right. Exactly. So what is that? if that is not that they are a love interest and not brother and sister.
So yeah, so folks, we're making a distinction about like stuff that was added later after like the first part of the story was already put out into the public, right? But yeah, so back to The Exorcist, right? And the question of whether or not this is the devil, right? Now, again, folks, I'm saying this even though I disagree. Like, I don't think this is the devil. I don't want this to be the devil, but devil's advocate here, we don't have that scene where he says he's not the devil.
Right.
Like, whatever Blatty thinks, it feels like Friedkin wants this to be the devil. Keenan, what do you think?
That would certainly, be a more catching pitch in a Hollywood way. Again, not better or worse necessarily, but like, and that is the way that audiences have taken that pitch and run with it, right? This is the devil. That is an easier, like, oh, that's why it's a movie. It's because the devil has come to the McNeil house.
Right. That is why this movie exists, right? It's like, what do they say? Like, you make your movie about the one time that the sun doesn't rise and set. Or like,
exactly.
Yeah. Right? Like, this line right here is a trailer line, right? It's like your daughter doesn't say she's possessed by a demon. She says she's possessed by the devil himself. Right. Smash cut to like a bunch of chaos and stuff like that.
Exactly. Right.
That's what's going to get us is like, ooh, I'm going to go see that movie. Right. So yeah. So like I said, like I still don't think this is the devil. Right. I know the book and the movie are two different things. We talked about that with The Shining, whatever. I still don't think this is the devil. But here's the thing, folks. I'm crossing myself right now. I also don't think this is Pazuzu.
Lester.
Or okay. Let me say I don't want it to be Pazuzu. Just like you don't want Laurie Strode and Michael Myers to be brother and sister because it makes sense in a better way for it to be something else for you, Keenan.
Yeah.
I don't like that it's Pazuzu if that's true. And let me explain myself. Let me
you
tell
better.
Yes.
You're going to stop a million emails right now that are coming
I know.
Okay.
Okay, Keenan, I love me some Phantom of the Opera, right?
Yes, in every iteration, right?
Yeah.
Well, except for, I guess, the movie version of the musical. But you like the musical, you like the book, you like the old Lon Chaney movie, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I even like the little, there's a cartoon version that I love, right?
Oh, I got to see that, yeah.
But yeah, and I also love me some Sherlock Holmes, right? When I was very young, just a young, precocious little scamp, right? I came across a book by Sam Siciliano called The Angel of the Opera, Sherlock Holmes Meets the Phantom. And I said to myself, this is gonna be garbage. Like, you can't mix these two flavors of the story and get something good. That never happens. Come to find, I was wrong. It was a very good book, and I highly recommend it to any fan of either of those IPs, Sherlock or The Phantom. And it worked because the author respected the reality of both of those characters and stayed true to Paris, stayed true to Baker Street and to each of their stories. And he could do that because Keenan, as you know, the opera ghost isn't really a ghost. He's a guy who has like tricked a bunch of people into thinking he's a ghost, right? With elaborate trapdoors and secret tunnels and, you know, secret underground lair, etc. Right?
A secret degree in music pedagogy.
Exactly, right?
So apparently.
It's like he knows music. Like, he is a mad genius who uses very real things to commit his crime. Right. So this is actually like a great pairing because, like, if anyone can sniff him out, right, and can also appreciate him for the Moriarty he is, it would be Sherlock Holmes, right? So there you go. Nice little bit of fan fiction, before fan fiction was a thing, right? Then, Keenan, I found a book called Sherlock Holmes Meets Dracula. And you know I also love me some Dracula.
Oh, yeah.
But that one didn't work, and I bet you can guess why.
So you're saying, right, because Dracula and Sherlock Holmes can't really exist in the same world because Dracula is supernatural and is immortal and not a guy pretending to be Dracula.
Right. And I'm not going to say what happens, but like I'll say what I predicted would happen, right? I predicted one of two things would happen. One, Sherlock Holmes investigates this seemingly supernatural case of a vampire and exposes Dracula as a fraud, which is not fun at all. So vampires now aren't real and the whole Dracula story suffers, right? Or, and this is even worse, Sherlock Holmes goes to Transylvania and finds out, holy shit, vampires are real. And now the world of Baker Street is forever altered, right? Like suddenly Moriarty is not impressive at all, right? All of his tricks and his ingenious machinations, right? His complicated plans mean nothing because, hey, Moriarty, there are fucking vampires out there, right? Your arch rival just fought one. You're not such of a much anymore. Right? Like, you know how all those like Sherlock Holmes stories, they start out with a mystery, like, so I just don't understand it, Holmes. Somehow the killer was able to get into the room and it was locked from the inside and they were able to kill the victim without spilling a single drop of blood. If I didn't know any better, I'd say this was something supernatural. And then Holmes would go, well, yeah. Right? Like, it's a vampire.
Right. Didn't you read the news?
Yeah. Can you imagine? They catch the guy and he's like, the great Sherlock Holmes. I'm sure you're wondering how I was able to commit my crime and then vanish seemingly into thin air. And Holmes is like, well, yeah, because you're a vampire. And can you imagine how offended like this guy would feel? He's like, you ass. Like, I worked really hard on making it look like this was impossible. I'm a genius. And Holmes is like, and a vampire.
Right. Moriarty doesn't seem that crazy. But then even, in that kind of world, if Sherlock Holmes falls off of, Rickenbach Falls, right?
Yeah.
Even that's not as important to us because we're like, well, potentially he can come back because anything's possible and things are magical. And Mrs. Hudson's tea doesn't seem very important to us anymore at all.
No. So like that just kind of like messes up both stories, right?
Right.
It does damage to both of them, right? And okay, so like getting back to this story here, The Exorcist, what I'm saying is, Keenan, I think you would agree. I think all of us would agree that the flavor of this movie and of this book is very Catholic, right? Like we even made we made jokes about it, right? Like it was like severely Catholic, right?
Severely Catholic, yeah.
The most Catholic movie you'll ever see, right? And we joke about that because that is the overarching theme of this story. We talk about the six smaller themes, right? Doubt, isolation, despair, conviction, communion, hope. But this is the backdrop, let's say. This is set in a world where the Catholics are right. And I'm not saying, like, believe whatever you believe. I'm just talking about the world of this story. And in the world of this story, we win by the power of Christ.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And Keenan, you yourself said it a couple of times. You were kind of teasing me a little bit. You were like, well, what does Pazuzu care about the power of Christ?
Right. And there are, I'm sure you'll talk about this, but there are like, even fan debates about that. Like, oh, how can Pazuzu pick up a cross? We've talked about, right? And then the testing of the holy water later on, etc. Right. So yeah, I'd love to tease you again. What does Pazuzu care about the power of Christ? Pazuzu is older than Christ. He predates Christ, right? He's been Pazuzing people before Jesus was a glimmer in his mother's holy eye, right? Like,
right, precisely, right?
Yeah, he's probably seen like, even in the Bible, we talk about other prophets that have come before who have turned out not to be prophets, like false prophets, etc. So Pazuzu has seen those people come and go, and what does he care?
Yeah, right. And folks, not to forget, remember Pazuzu's whole deal is that he is kind of an exorcist himself, right? Because he drives out other demons. He's so big and so scary that other demons run away from him. And so the ancient Mesopotamian versions of exorcists would use him to get rid of other demons. So he is both a demon and an exorcist. Right? Yeah. And also, Pazuzu is a whole other pantheon. That's what I'm trying to say. He's a whole other flavor that I just personally don't like mixing with this very clean, very like streamlined theme we got going here, right? And again, don't get me wrong, right? Like I like a Pazuzu story, right? I will watch a movie where Pazuzu gets defeated by the power of the sky god Anu or Lamashtu. Sure, like give me that story. It sounds great. But this is like okay. It's like watching a Batman movie and we're at the climax and he's fighting the Joker on the tops of the roofs of Gotham, right? And Joker's being Joker and he's deconstructing Batman and his values and he's doing his like absurd nihilism thing and everything we know and we love about the Joker and he's just being full on Joker, right? and then Batman hits him with a batarang and Joker's form shimmers a little bit and shifts and we discover that it's Loki. Not even another Batman villain. It's Loki. And we're like, what? And yeah, like as much as you like Loki, right? You got to admit that's kind of jarring. That's a little bit messy, right? You don't want that in your Batman story. If you sat down to a Batman story, right? You want Batman versus the Joker. The Joker is the arch nemesis of Batman, right? Those two go together, right? They're two sides of the same coin.
Right. And you were saying something similar when we got to guest spot a couple times on the Marvel Movie Minute. We got to go and visit our family on True Story FM. And you were talking about, religion in the MCU as we were watching a scene where Iron Man is punching the crap out of Thor at a fight over Loki and Captain America breaks them up.
Right. Yes. And that was kind of like my question there was, because again, we kind of got like, a mixing of IPs, of franchises, right? Like where like we have Loki and Thor and they're, like, are they gods? And if they are gods, then like what religion is Iron Man? Because whatever it is, he's wrong because
he's an atheist.
Okay, well, then he's still wrong. Because he's punching Thor in the face.
Right. And Captain America is a Christian, for sure.
Well, he's also wrong. Because Loki and Thor are there. Objectively there. But that's what I'm saying. Like, and I know, I think it's been corrected. It's been, we've been educated, Keenan. I think, Andy has told us, well, they're kind of like aliens that...
There's debate there, yeah, but the Asgardians are aliens who came down to Norway in the 1300s, right, and were read by the Vikings as gods. But even within the wider like Marvel canon of all the comic books and everything, there's debate there.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah. I didn't know. I thought it was kind of like resolved. It's like, they're aliens, right? Like,
nope.
Wow. Okay then. Well,
it's Catholic versus Protestant, but in the MCU.
I love it. But yeah, so. And folks, like, getting back to our movie here, like in that same way, like if you're going to have a story where the heroes are Catholic, the priests who win through the power of Christ, your villain has to be an arch enemy of Christ, right? Like maybe not the devil, but certainly like a Judeo-Christian Abrahamic demon, right? Like that's just symmetry, right? Like
Lilith
even if,
or something.
Yeah,
something
perfect example, right? Even if you don't notice it, it's just more pleasing to the palate, right? Like, you're listening to one type of music and it stays that type of music all the way through and it doesn't get weird, right? Like you're listening to classical and it doesn't suddenly become bluegrass, right? You're like, wait a minute, or like, I don't know, progressive rock or something like that, right? And you might like both of those styles of music, but not like at the same time, right? Yeah. Okay. Perfect thing. Keenan, have you heard of the Ars Goetia?
No.
Okay. So, and listeners, for you as well, everybody who hasn't heard of this, buckle up. This is some wild stuff right here. Okay.
Okay, good.
So, like the Ars Goetia, that's if anybody wants to Google ARS, and then second word is Goetia, the Ars Goetia, right, is the first book in a bigger book known as the Lesser Key of Solomon, which is a grimoire or a book of magic. And that first part, the Ars Goetia, is a list of 72 demons, which apparently King Solomon, that King Solomon had under his control and who helped him build the first temple of Israel.
What?
Yes.
Demons help build the temple.
Yeah, I'm loving your reaction here, Keenan. And I'm sure if anybody's drinking coffee right now, it's like, right? So yeah, folks,
like the temple,
where
the
Solomon,
dome, where the Dome of the Rock is.
Yeah,
the temple,
the Solomon, the baby cutting, guy. Well, no, he didn't do that. But
he offered to.
He offered to. Right. But I think that was his wisdom. But yeah, that guy and that temple, 72 demons. Yeah, it's like so. Okay, like folks. Yeah, King Solomon. So according to this little bit of the lore, right? Mm-hmm. King Solomon was actually a sorcerer, like a great and powerful sorcerer, and God gave him power over 72 demons, and then he forced them to build the first temple. Now, that is from a book of the Apocrypha called The Testament of Solomon, which is not accepted as canon, right? That's what I wonder why.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so folks, if you've heard of the Apocrypha before, right? The Apocrypha is basically it's like the stuff that didn't get in, right? It literally means hidden things, right? So it's the stuff that wasn't made canon, right? But like it is kind of like looked at as this odd curiosity or like point of interest by other folks, scholars, and also sometimes like people who practice magic, right? But yeah, if you have the time, folks, check out some of the Apocrypha stories. They are wild, full of like angels and demons and wizards and really like metal stuff, right? like this is your Christian mythology stuff right here. And so the Lesser Key of Solomon, which came out again way later, like in the 17th century, right? So even removed from the apocryphal stuff, right? But still pretty cool because like it claims to be Solomon's book of magic. And I feel like if you want a book of magic, like that's the one, right? You want Solomon's book,
right? I just want to point out some ancient cultures would treat wisdom as being synonymous with magic. So right, or sorcery. So like for Solomon to be wise, for some people would be like, well, then he must know magic, which wasn't necessarily the case of the society that Solomon actually came from, but some later ones where those were the exact same thing.
Right. And I'm recalling now, even like, Shakespeare will sometimes say something like, he'll say, it's like, oh, that's a question for a philosopher. Right. And when he's saying the word philosopher, he's not talking about like, Plato and Aristotle. He's talking about like wizards.
Exactly. Like Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Philosopher's Stone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So knowledge and wisdom and magic were kind of like they were synonymous with each other a little bit more so than today.
Right.
Yeah. So you like the first book, the first part of the Lesser Key of Solomon, right? Is a book. It's a list of 72 demons that Solomon apparently had under his control through a magic ring given to him by God, right? Aladdin had one lamp and one genie and 3 wishes, and Solomon had like a ring, way more portable. 72 demons and apparently infinite wishes, right? Given to him by God. So it's like, it's okay to do this. Right?
Right.
It's like, I gave this to you, use these 72 demons however you will, right?
Right. Any
Go build the first temple of Israel.
sort of way that you want to use it. The only limit is your own time.
Yeah. And yeah, folks, like if you want me to go into more detail about the Ars Goetia, like write in, because there's a lot. We could do maybe a bonus episode on that, right? Okay. But I bring it up here because like I'm trying to say that like it's not like we don't have a plethora of Abrahamic demons to choose from, right? The Ars Goetia is literally a Pokedex of Abrahamic demons. Like, it has a little description for each of them, their appearance, their power, what they like, what they don't like, their weaknesses. Like, I'm only half joking about the Pokedex line here, folks, because like if you watch, anime or play video games, you've probably come across a bunch of these demons as they have been appropriated into pop culture as like video game bosses or like anime bad guys. Like much like how we use like, Jungian archetypes in our stories, the names of these demons are probably familiar to some of you from like other contexts, like a video game or something like that, right?
Right. And that's where I learned about Lilith, because she was a monster in the Final Fantasy series. And I was like, well, this is it's just a woman. Why is this a monster? I was like, oh, okay. And looked her up.
And then we come to find it's like, oh, Lilith. Yeah.
Yeah. She's the first wife of Adam, and, was not a good woman, not a good wife of Adam, I guess.
Well, I mean, that depends, because we got some other religions are saying, because like the idea that she was not a good wife was she would not submit to Adam.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And so the idea is like, well, some people are actually like venerating Lilith right now, because it's like, well, yeah, strong, independent woman, right? I'm going to go off and do my own thing. And actually,
that was the music festival, the feminist music festival is called Lilith Fair, as exactly that, right? Of like, we're not going to be like Eve, like you want this vision of submissive femininity, right?
Yeah, it was like, is that the slogan, like always Lilith, never Eve, or something like that?
Oh, that sounds good. I like that.
Yeah, I've heard it, but I don't know who that belongs to. But yeah, so and I think like it was only later that like she was demonized, and now she became like a demon, right? By guess who? By the church, right? Like,
right.
Yeah, so they're going to say, it's like, well, yeah, she's not just a woman who wouldn't submit to Adam; she's a demon. Right?
Those are the same thing.
Those are the same. Yeah, but just all the cardinals just elbowing each other. Same thing. Am I right, boys? Am I right, boys? Yeah. And yeah, so like Keenan, we just did an episode of Sitting in the Dark, right? That new show on True Story FM, right? Where each episode explores different subgenres of horror. And we came on to talk about demonic possession movies. And in my building of the curriculum for that show, I watched a lot of other possession movies. And in watching them, I came face to face with Asmodeus and Baal and Payman and Valak and Belial and all these other really cool, really interesting Abrahamic demons, right? Some of them from the Ars Goetia, that gave us this weight and this history. Now, none of these other depictions were as good as the character of Captain Howdy we have here in The Exorcist, but that just makes it all the more frustrating for me, because it's like, why not just call him something else? Like, you have such a good character here. Just make this last puzzle piece fit for me by giving him an Abrahamic demon's name and not Pazuzu, right? Like, and then it's perfect, right? And again, like, the Ars Goetia has 72 demons. Just pick one. Right.
You want the symmetry of it, the balance of it.
Yes, exactly. Right. But okay, so Keenan, like, that's my other thing about this is I just went on this whole rant about how I don't like that this is supposed to be Pazuzu, but is it? Can I maybe actually have my cake and eat it too? Because like, I don't think there's enough evidence in the movie or the book to confirm that Captain Howdy is the Demon King Pazuzu. And here's where I feel the feathers getting ruffled. I feel some people turning away. Let me explain.
But he says he is.
I know. Okay. Wait, when does he say
No,
he
doesn't say he is.
He doesn't. I was like, oh my God, did you just find something?
No. I was like, what do we think about this evidence I've made up?
Right, yeah.
Right, he never says he did.
Right, yeah. So Keenan, we just had a reading from the Book of Blatty where Karis meets Captain Howdy for the first time. And Captain Howdy is making all of these Catholic references, right? He's making jokes about King Herod. He says he spent a lot of time in Rome. He specifically talks about hell. He implies that Karis is unworthy because he doesn't believe in God, right? The Judeo-Christian Abrahamic God, right? In the hypnotism scene earlier, like when he's speaking backwards, the psychiatrist asks him where he comes from, and he says dog. And the guy's like, you come from a dog? And Howdy says, dog morphmokion, right? Which is backwards. No, I come from God. This demon, as written by Blatty himself, does not sound like Mesopotamian demon king Pazuzu. And later, like when he's being compelled by the power of Christ, we get a sense that this is a demon who knows Christ and who hates and fears Christ.
Well, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's going to be compelled by the power of Christ, right? He, as I argued a couple of minutes ago, and you seem to agree with me, seems to be taking on the persona of an antichrist in like holding himself in crucifix type situations. And we haven't seen this yet, but like later on, the scarring that seems to come from the inside is pretty similar to the scarring of Christ working up into Calvary.
Yes, right? And even just like the thing with the crucifix, right? Like, what does Pazuzu care about a crucifix?
No.
Right? Like, yeah. And so I think all of us collectively, right? The audiences of The Exorcist, right? We saw the statue in the beginning. And also we saw the amulet, right? That Marin is handling. I think what all of us said was, oh, that's the demon we're going to face. And I don't know if that's enough for me. Like, and the book is even less explicit about it, right? Like you'd think if it's anywhere, it would be in the book, right? You would have Father Marin come in and be like, my old friend Pazuzu, right? or you'd have Captain Howdy himself say, aha, you got me. Good detective work, Karras. I am Pazuzu, right? Like, the only other time Pazuzu is mentioned outside of Iraq is when Karras is up late and he's looking through a ton of books and he's reading about a ton of demons and possession cases. And his eye just happens to fall on a photo and he glances at the inscription and it's Pazuzu, right? And he's like, huh, right? And that's it.
He doesn't use that later on in his case at all, right?
It never comes up again. He doesn't jump up from his chair and run back over to the McNeil house and like point to the picture. It's like, is this you? Right? Like, it's just another picture in one of his books that he does nothing with. He doesn't even write anything down.
Another thing that might help in your argument, right, is like, so if it is Pazuzu, and maybe Pazuzu is putting on the trappings of the devil because he's dealing with Catholics, or because he's trying to perhaps ultimately get Marin or get Karras. There's debates about who his true target is, or maybe both of them. Right, exactly. He doesn't. Pazuzu wouldn't think that he is less than the demon or the devil, right? He would think that he's better than the Christian devil, right? He's less than this. So we don't ever have any of that kind of. I mean, I guess my point is that Pazuzu would be prideful of his stature, right? That's the nature of those pantheonic gods, is that even when they are working under like a king or a queen of the pantheon, they all think that they're like that they're better than that. Than the leader there, let alone some god from some other pantheon.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're all like, Ceres is like, I'm the one who keeps this whole thing together, and Hades is like, they put me down, but I'm the only reason all of this works is me and what I'm responsible for.
Yes. No, actually, that's a very, very good point, Keenan. And folks, yeah, I'm aware that I'm probably in the minority here, right? The greater fandom has decided that this is Pazuzu, right? Like I've even heard Friedkin and yes, even Blatty refer to him as Pazuzu. So yes, I am overruled. But like I said, this raises questions that I don't like. For example, okay, Keenan, you just hinted at it now. If Pazuzu exists, what does that say about our big bad and our big good, right? It sort of diminishes the power of this story, like this story which is about faith, right? It also makes both God and the devil less impressive if there are other supernatural beings, right? Like I really don't like that for this story, right? Now, I've been able to try to like smooth it out in my own head, right? John Milton got around it one way. John Milton, when he wrote Paradise Lost, right? That famous epic poem, right? About the fall of Satan, right? He had all of the devils under Satan's command go forth into the world and build false religions and disguise themselves as gods of those religions. So according to Milton, Zeus is a demon and Thor is a demon and Ra, the sun god, is actually a demon. And they're all aware of the one true religion, but they're working for Satan like in this grand ruse, right? Yeah. So we could go that way. We could say, okay, Pazuzu is one of those demons, and he went to Mesopotamia to lead people away from the true religion of God and Christ.
Right. And then somehow is planting artifacts from thousands of years before Christ appeared to trick the secular and the Jesuits who were going there and all of that. Right. That
Precisely.
is the idea. Right. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But okay. But if that's the truth behind this, then have somebody say that. Like, have Marin say that when he's like, perfect opportunity, right? Like, he's like, there is only one, right? Have him be like, yeah, there is only one. He's Pazuzu, but he works for the devil, our devil, right? Like, if you're saying that this is Pazuzu, then Marin has to elaborate that Pazuzu is still their enemy because he works for the big enemy, right? And if we can't have that scene, then don't say he's Pazuzu, which actually they never do. So, so I'm happy about that, right?
Right.
Okay. So Keenan, that's one way we could do this, right? That Pazuzu is working for Satan and he's tricking all the people and all the other gods and goddesses are demons, right? Like, we could do that. I don't like it. It's messy, but the other way is even worse. The other option is that this really is Pazuzu, demon king of the southwest wind, son of Hanbi, ex-husband of Lamashtu, who is the daughter of the supreme sky god Anu, and all of those are real as well. And now, God and Jesus and the devil are so much less impressive if we get all these other gods and demons floating around, like, and now these two priests just look silly. And the whole story of Karis's faith is like, buddy, you have no idea, right? Right. Like, you're having trouble believing in Yahweh. I got news for you.
Right. Yeah, because Karis is like, I think I've lost my faith, Tom. And Tom's like, in Ishtar?
It's like, no, not in Ishtar. It's like, oh, you mean in Odin? No, not that one. It was like, oh, in Zeus? No.
As long as you still believe in Bacchus, we're going to be all right here.
Right.
Right, him and Father Dyer certainly believe in Bacchus.
Oh, in Yahweh. Oh, is that all? Oh, just, well,
I get that, yeah.
I mean, it's not good, but, if it's only one, then, But no, like that is the option that I cannot accept, because like, we're laughing about it because it's silly, right? But I don't want that to be the tapestry behind this story, is that like there's like this whole kind of like network of gods and goddesses. I don't like that. Like, that is the Sherlock Holmes meets Dracula that hurts both of the original stories, right? I don't want that for this story, which I said before is one of my favorite books. So I'm trying to reconcile this, in my own mind, folks. Like, and maybe you guys can help me out here, right? Because this is a thing that I have been struggling with about this story, which I love so much. I made a freaking podcast about it, right? So if you have an answer for this, if you have a way that you square this circle in your own mind and make this weird inconsistency work, right? Please write in and let us know. And I don't know if other people get as hung up about this as I do, right? Or if they found a way to make it make sense, or if you have like the same issue with this, right? I would love to hear from you. Please write in and let us know. We've already covered the problem of evil. We'll call this one the problem of Pazuzu.
Right. Problem of evil solved. Problem of Pazuzu, question mark. Yeah.
How do you solve a problem like Pazuzu?
Right, so
I already did that joke.
Yeah. We could, that's the trouble with our show, is that we should only have one joke once.
I can't do that joke. I've already. Who the fuck are you talking to?
Right. I'm sorry. I can't operate on my son. We've already done that joke. All right. So you felt good about that, Lester?
Yeah.
You got that off your chest? If we have any fans left, we can continue on. Or
if anybody's still out there. Yeah. So, long story short, too late. I got a problem with this being a non-Catholic Judeo-Christian Abrahamic demon. Like, why is it Pazuzu? Like, let's clean this up a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Yeah. And then, that's going to have some ramifications later. Like, again, there are already these discussions of why does he pretend to be hurt by the holy water? Why does he, et cetera. So I don't know how you square all of that together with it being.
Well, actually, Keenan, like, you brought this up before.
Yeah.
Could Blatty have wanted this originally to be Legion?
Well, that's how the book starts. I mean, the very, very, very first thing in the book, before even the beginning, is the quote about Legion. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. The red threads are coming together right now. Hang on, folks. Okay. No. It's a quote at the beginning of the book. Reagan is speaking with all of these different personalities in her head, right? Like, we got Carl, we got Karis's mom, we got the demon, we got like all of these, can you help an old altar boy, father, all that
Burke,
stuff.
Rather.
Right? Burke. I said Carl. Yeah. And then also, it is the sequel book. That is the title of the sequel book, is Legion.
Right.
And then didn't you read, wasn't there, wait. Like, can you bring that back up? The thing in the screenplay that was like excised before? That is, I guess, non-canonical.
What part?
Where the demon says, "We are Legion."
Aha.
Oh, you found it.
Great. I found it. Yeah.
Oh, yay.
All right. So you're right. When Karras goes and sees the demon for the first time, I'm afraid you might hurt yourself, Reagan. I am not Reagan, right? I am the devil. Now kindly undo these straps. If you're the devil, why not just make the straps disappear? That's much too vulgar display of power, Karras. Where's Reagan? She's in here with us, my friend. Semicolon. We are Legion with a capital L.
With a capital L. So to denote a name.
Absolutely. Right. As it is in the Bible.
As it is in the Bible. Right. See, and that, I don't know, like, that's if there were like an Abrahamic demon that I could in my little fan fiction of this book, and like replace Pazuzu with, I would want this demon to be Legion.
So why would Blatty change it? Or why would Blatty? Yeah, if the whole book is about Legion, and then we have this thing where he's trying to get that in there, why would he change it to the implication of something else? I mean, to be fair, there aren't really cool depictions of Legion out there the way that there are really cool, visual, nice, scary depictions of Pazuzu.
Right.
So I mean, just visually, Pazuzu is cooler than Legion is.
Yeah. So yeah, folks, again, like write in because that's something like if I had to pick, I would say Legion. That's a like I would almost be like, I wonder if that was originally what Blatty was trying to do, because we have so many other, like, the word Legion is probably, if you counted the number of times the word Legion is in the book and the number of times Pazuzu is in the book,
right?
I bet Legion would actually be more.
Yes, you're probably absolutely correct.
Yeah, and because like not only is it in the quote before the book starts, but they read a passage from the Bible during the exorcism, and that's one of the passages.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. But yeah, folks, again, I would love to continue this discussion. If you disagree with me, by all means, write in and like educate us, because we're here to learn as well. And yeah, I feel like I am ruffling some feathers by saying that I don't think this is Pazuzu, or I don't want this to be Pazuzu. So,
yeah. All right. So if you're still listening,
yeah, and 5 stars, please. No,
right. Go. Yeah, you could make your own podcast about how we're wrong, and we would love that. Actually.
We would give it 5 stars.
Right, yeah, exactly. We'd give your podcast 5 stars.
Yes. But yeah, okay. So let's get back to this movie right here. You'll remember that Karras just said that Captain Howdy, or Reagan, he thinks, claims not only to be a demon, but the devil, right? The devil himself. Now, he says, if you've seen as many psychotics as I have, you realize that that's the same thing as saying you're Napoleon Bonaparte, right? At which point, I just want to hear Reagan from upstairs, right? So like, that's a great idea! So we go back up there, right? She's got the little hat, right? And somehow one of the straps has come loose, and she's got the hand tucked into the shirt, right? Now Carl has to carry her around, and she's like faster, my faithful steed, on to Waterloo.
Yeah, Marengo, the horse. I just remembered that.
Oh, well, there you go. Right? Faster, Marengo.
Faster, Marengo. In that the famous painting, right, where he's pointing on the back of the horse. Yeah.
And Carl's just like, I actually preferred Captain Howdy. Right?
Right. Yeah. He's not as he doesn't have a Napoleon Napoleon complex.
But yeah, again, like this line, because within the movie for the characters, it makes perfect sense. Like, yeah, this is so big and scary that it can't possibly be real, right? But we, the audience, know it's real. So that just reaffirms how big and scary it is. It's like your daughter can't possibly be possessed, because do you know how horrible that would be? Right. That would be so awful. And we're like, oh shit. Like, that is awful. Yeah.
Right.
But folks, that's the language of cinema, right? Like, as soon as a parent or a teacher or a doctor or a police officer says, look, I don't care what you saw, there's no such thing as ghosts, right? We all go, okay, this is a story where ghosts are real.
Right. Yeah. The physics of storytelling, it's the equal and opposite reaction, right?
Right.
We're told there are no ghosts, then of course they're ghosts.
Yeah, right? We know that guy is wrong, because that's how stories work, right? Like we wouldn't show him saying that unless we're going to prove him wrong. Right. It's like, hello, there's been a robbery at the museum. Someone stole a mummy from the Egyptian wing, but there's no signs of breaking and entering. Oh, so you're telling me a 3,000-year-old dead guy just got up and what? Yes, that is what they're telling you. That is exactly what that's why that scene exists. exists, right? Like then we hard cut to a 3,000-year-old dead guy walking down the street, right? Like they even had it in this story, Keenan, right? Like Chris says in the book, she's like, that cross didn't walk up there, goddammit. Which I take to mean it probably did.
Yeah, it's
right?
got little legs on it. It walks up the stairs backwards like a spider.
No, what I'm saying like Captain Howdy probably made it like float up to the room, right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, like he moved the chair and the chest of drawers and all the other stuff. Yeah, so simply by Karras stating how impossible this is, that should send a shiver down our spine because we already know he's wrong, right? Now, he continues. He says, you asked me what I think is best for your daughter. 6 months under observation in the best hospital you can find. And again, this has a similar effect on us because like what he's saying makes so much sense. It's so logical and sensible. And he says it with such conviction that we're like tempted to be comforted by it, right? We're like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's right. Let's just trust this guy. He's a good guy. And then we remember that he is completely wrong. And we have seen the evidence that he is wrong. And also we've already been down that road. Like we've been with the doctors. We've been in the hospitals under close observation, right? The best hospitals, the best doctors, 88 of them, right? And now we're here and he's sending us back. And it's this great paradoxical feeling of like, I know I can trust you. I know you are a good, capable guy, and I want to believe you, but you're also wrong. Ugh. Like that's just like, ugh.
And again, like he's also telling Chris the option that he had wished for his mother, right? Like the private hospital. Who's got money for that, Dimmy? Right? Chris has money for that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So
he's projecting.
What?
Yeah.
Like a human being. He's saying things that aren't matching with his other thoughts.
Right, but she would not be sending Reagan to Bellevue. She probably wouldn't be sending Reagan to the van spa that that Dr. Berenger Foundation wants her to go to, right? Like it would be some Beverly Hills place where it would actually work, and he just like, please go and do that, right?
Yeah. Oh my God,
I'm telling you from my experience, please do that.
I like and I don't. Okay. They did this in a funny way in Shrek. But,
okay.
But no.
I'm listening.
But I can see this playing out and being like very, very sad and us being like, oh, like at the very end, I can see him kind of like ramping up, right? It's like, you know, and him saying, you know, something like, 6 months under observation in the best hospital you can find. And if you can't do that, you're a bad son.
Right.
And then he stops and he's like, oh. It's like I was talking about myself.
Right,
like,
exactly.
But in this context, it wouldn't be funny. It was like all of us in the audience would be like, oh, no.
Dimmy, why?
Yeah, Dimmy, why? And then some idiot in the audience was like, I think he's talking about himself. Nicolas Cage, what are you doing here?
Oh, I try to be in every movie they offer me.
But yeah, no, like, I can see that happening, like him almost saying you're a bad son and then catching himself, right? Because he's yelling at himself right now. Oh my God. Thank you for bringing that up, Keenan. I didn't even see that. Wow.
Pretty disturbing stuff. Yeah.
So after this, we cut and we are behind Karras. He has finished this little spiel and now he bows his head, exhausted.
Right.
And after a pause, Chris begins to speak. And she says, you show me Reagan's double. Same face, same voice, everything. This is right from the book as well. Karras has sat down and he looks up and she looks at him. Again, I love this. These two characters were destined to meet. We got Chris, whom no one wants to look in the eye, and we got Karras, who's always looking inward or away. And like, you know, when talking about like what he can and can't do. And yet these two are able to hold each other's gaze. Like, I really, really like that. Keenan, you were talking before about how like in a lesser movie, like these two would end up together, right?
Right. Or at least the possibility of that. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like this right here, this is like they are on the cusp of some other director making this into a bad movie. Like they are right there. But they're like, no, like, this is a story about something else, right? And so Chris continues, right? She'd know it wasn't Reagan. She'd know it in her gut. And here it begins to ramp up. I like this too. Like, it's like she's taken all the anger and all the frustration and the pain from previous scenes, all of these, like what other people might see as emotional outbursts, right? She's taken all of that and she has internalized it and is now able to control it and aim it like a gun and dole it out slowly also, right? Like, so that it builds and builds. And I feel like this is a turning point for her. Like, we talked about it in the beginning of this episode, but she is now in control of her anger and she's not being blown around by the storm. She is the storm now and she's letting him know. And her anger is just as great, just as intense, but she has aimed it at him. And maybe that's a little unfair, right? But to her, he is now the face of all of those faceless doctors, right? All of those shrinks, all of those radiologists, all of those fucking men who think they know better. And she is bringing the storm to them. And it's great. She is challenging them, saying, you don't know everything. And also challenging him. And isn't it just so perfect that she's an atheist and he's a priest, and she is essentially telling him to open his mind to other possibilities?
Yeah. Perfect is the word for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, yeah, in a way, that sort of makes her the one with the stronger faith, doesn't it? Like, she's able to go from total disbelief to now accepting the possibility of demons, and he, who is literally clothed in the church, is unable to get to that point just yet, right? And we've speculated that. Like, maybe it's not that he doesn't believe, but it could be that he's afraid to believe, right? Not in the devil, I think of God.
Yeah.
Like, Karras is a fascinating character. Like, I thought I already knew his whole deal before we started this podcast, but like, I'm learning more and more things about him, like, as I go through this with you, Keenan, like, and I'm seeing more angles to him and to Chris. Like, there's so much going on with both of them that I didn't see at first.
Right. I think so. This moment where, so our minute by minute thing is going to hurt a little bit because she's, as I was saying at the beginning, starting this really rough, biting into him here. We're going to have to cut it off at our minute here. Right. But like, I like what you say about, right, she's not being blown away by the storm. She's harnessing the storm. She is the storm, right? I've been thinking a lot, as some of our listeners have been, about like, why is Chris an actor? What does her being a performer have to do with it? We were talking about, okay, well, that's something maybe economically, right, from a Marxist perspective, like, she's the only one, this is the only role a woman could have, one of the few, where she could be the single mother that still has resources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
I completely buy that. But now that I'm listening, as we're airing our Kinderman episodes about performance and the theatricality of him, like, I'm really on the edge of this idea that maybe it'll take me a couple more minutes to figure out, but like, of Chris as an actor, and here she's like, yeah, she's telling the truth, but she's able to harness her performative powers, right? To like demonstrate this in a reasonable, rational, but also like, I am serious about this sort of way.
Yeah.
So I think like, I'm on the verge of this, but like, Kinderman as an actor, Chris as an actor, and then, Karras as maybe not an actor in that sense, but like having put on masks and performing and going through the motions. And then, of course, what's his name? Captain Howdy up there.
Yep.
Right. Being a performer and being theatrical and like and using Reagan as a puppet. He's like a bunraku master or something like that. Right. And using her. And I think there is something there about that. And then, Dyer as an actor who the artist without an art, like, he's putting his acting impulses into his work as a priest. Right. I think
his whole performance thing with the piano and all that, right? Like, he loves being that center of attention. Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't say his idea of heaven would be ministering to people up there. It's right. Because I've heard also, other people who have become priests or rabbis or cantors, right? Being about like, well, I didn't have an outlet for my showbiz, what I recognize as a grown up as my showbiz gene. And so I found it in the church. Right. So I think there actually is a lot more than I had thought about performance here and being performative. And this moment is really it. I think it's like, she's not flying off the handle in the way that we've been used to, where it's like, I'm not in control of my emotions. She's like, well, this is what I do for a job, is I focus my emotions. And it does feel very different.
It's almost operatic.
Yes. And you are my audience. You sit down here, right? And I'm gonna actually do it. It's because it's not, as we've said throughout this whole scene, right? She's very still. Right. Like the way a film actor has to be, as opposed to, having these neurotic outbursts that she's been with the doctors, where she is all over the place and with her, reaching for her cigarettes and fidgeting with her purse and all that stuff. Like, she is like, no, I am standing on my mark and I'm giving you this performance.
Right. And so, I mean, like as a performer, that says one thing. And then like, just as like Chris as a person, all of her focus, all of her energy. She doesn't have any like kind of like extra runoff outpourings of energy, which would like inform her like hands or her cigarettes,
right?
Or, you know, like
as we've seen over and over again, in previous minutes. Yeah.
It's all focused. It's all like she has taken all of it and she is pointing it at him.
Right. And we've like seen her potentially failing as a performer with her her interrogation by Kinderman, where he's putting on these performances and she just shrinks away into nothing, right? And she and then when he's gone, we see all of that leak out of her and when she closes the door on him.
Yes. Yeah. But okay, so Chris continues. She's slowly ramping up. She says, I want you to tell me that you know for a fact that there's nothing wrong with my daughter except in her mind. And this right here is important, folks. Like I said, she is challenging him, but it's not like I'm right and you're wrong. It's more complex than that. And it's more damning. She's saying it's wrong and you know it. It's not that you're incorrect, you're lying to me and to yourself, and you know it. Go ahead and tell me honestly that you're sure that this is just her brain. You can't tell me that honestly because you don't believe it yourself. That's even worse than just saying you're wrong. Like, honestly, that's kind of the same scrutiny that he got from Captain Howie upstairs, right? Karras is like, I am done with this family. But no, I really like this scene. Like, here we got Chris coming into her power as mom, and as catalyst for this whole thing. And we got Karras being called to his purpose. And I can't wait to pick it back up in the next minute. For now, though, that is all of my notes. Keenan, is there anything else we missed?
Nope. Yeah. Sorry, Chris. Sorry to cut you off there.
I know. Yeah. Like the men that we are. Well, that's really nice, Chris. But let me mansplain the problem of Pazuzu to you. You see, it can't be Pazuzu because and she's just standing there like, what?
Yeah, I got 88 demons over here.
88 demons.
72 doctors, 88 demons.
Okay. Folks, this has been another excellent Exorcist Minute. I've been Lester Ryan Clark. You can catch me on all the socials as Lester Ryan Clark.
And I've been Keenan Diaz. You can find me on Instagram and Letterboxd as Howdy Keenan.
We got our listener group, Compelling Conversations. Go check that out and request to join, and we'll let you in here with us. And yeah, if you'd like to leave us a message, write to us at theexorcistminute@gmail.com. Again, I want to hear from you. What do you think? Is this Pazuzu? Do you feel the same way that I do about kind of like the symmetry and the kind of like the flavor of this whole thing, right? Let us know. And yes, a big thank you to everyone who has given us a 5-star rating on iTunes and Spotify or wherever you listen to our show. We really appreciate it. That's going to help our little podcast grow and find more cool people like you.
Yeah, and if you haven't heard, we have joined the True Story FM network of podcasts. That is True TRU Story, and we're really excited to be with them. And they have a lot of great content over there for you to check out as well.
Yeah, so go check out their other podcasts. And yeah, like Keenan said, we are in there with them.
Oh, that's not nice to be on the other side of that. No, now we're in there. Oh, gosh.
All right, Keenan, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think I am, Lester.
Folks, until next time.
The power of Sherlock Holmes compels you. What would Sherlock Holmes meet Nicolas Cage be?
Oh God!
Would those universes match or not?
I think he would meet Nick Cage and just be like, oh, and just walk away. Like, no, he would dog his trail. He would follow. He was like, nobody is that one-dimensional. There's something going on there.
Something's going on here.
Something like that is the worst act he is putting on, that he knows nothing. He must know something. That is so fake. Like you're trying to fool me by being a rube. I am? Don't play stupid with me.
The game is afoot.
The game is afoot?
Well, that's really great. That sounds fantastic. Yeah.
So we need special shoes for this? Once more into the breach, dear friends.